ended up on the streets committee. I know that they had a difficult time finding people to sit on that license surcharge committee.
Yeah, I went in to talk to Tom Scannell after we talked, and he was gone. And then I meant to bring it up to Mr. Winkler and forgot. So Mr. Winkler doesn't even know what we're talking about at this point. He's smiling though right there. Yeah, I can see him smiling.
Well, I think I'm piecing together the bits and pieces of it. So, yes, I believe that license surcharge, because most of those funds go towards street improvements. It made sense for that committee, since there was so much trouble keeping it, the commitments occupied, that they decided to consolidate that with street improvements.
Well, and the license surcharge committee was such an odd, they had such odd requirements for you to be a member. And they, you know, they kept losing people and couldn't find anyone to fill those slots.
Yeah, and then, of course, with the permanent moratorium on the license surcharge, then it just made sense for the remaining funds, which I think there is approximately $1.2 million left. Once that goes, of course, then license surcharge completely disappears.
Right. Well, and I think we discussed it one time and voted to put a moratorium on it. Yeah. And that was all we've ever done as far as, you know, the license surcharge issue.
Okay, Tanya, it's 5 after, and it looks like we've got, on my screen, it looks like we might have 4 people, we might have a quorum. So I'm not sure if we should go ahead and take roll and get started.
Sure. Yeah, we got to stay on track. So
yeah,
we need to end the meeting at 6. So
yeah, let me just real quick. Hey, to the board here, the commission, because we moved the meeting from last week, there was a conflict with another meeting that's at 6 o'clock. It's the Board of Health. That is the regularly scheduled time. So City 7, who's recording this for us right now, will need to be up and ready to record their meeting at 6 o'clock. So we're going to try to, like Tanya just said, we're going to stay on track real tight here.
Okay, so I'll start here. Ed Nesbitt.
Yes.
Let's see. Tim Watkins.
Yes.
Wes Epperson. Gloria Smith. Fran Wagner. Daniel Martin. I see him on, so.
He's muted right now.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Oh, there you
go. Can you,
okay.
There we go.
Okay. All right. And Joshua Mayfield. Okay. Then we have Mike Jackson.
I'm here.
Mike Winkler.
Here.
Mike Schott.
Present.
Mark Green.
Here.
Zan McKinney. And myself. Okay.
Okay.
And then, do you want to go around the room, or do you want to?
Yeah, I'm just really quickly, not to have the committee have to introduce themselves again, like the last time we met. So just really quickly, just so everyone knows who else is on here. These first few meetings, we've asked, Mike Winkler and I have decided it'd probably be better to have a few more experts on here. So we've got Mark Green, who is our traffic engineer. Mike Schott, who was he was on the last time, who is our facilities manager and fleet manager, and Zan McKinney, who is our streets superintendent, who also oversees the snow removal program. So we thought it'd be best to have them just sit in here, especially at the very end when we do have a chance for questions, rather than say, hey, we'll send you an email next week with the answer to that. A lot of times most of the time they'll be able just to go ahead and answer those for us. So at least for these next few meetings, we're going to have additional folks sit in. I'm at the utility center right now, and our connectivity is so bad that we are not able to print all day. So all of the documents you sent, I haven't printed yet. So bear with me, I'm going to go back and forth here from the agenda. Okay, I have on here that we need to approve the minutes. I'm not sure if we should do that before or after discussing selecting a chair or vice chair. Does the committee have any thoughts on that? I mean,
I'm fine with approving it.
okay, can we get a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Nay?
Aye.
All right. I think that was all four, so there's no reason to look for the nays. Motion is approved. So the next item on there, we talked about this last time. We did, I'm not sure, do we have a quorum last time, Tanya?
No, we did not.
Okay, which is why we pushed it to this meeting.
Yes, correct.
This is, to my knowledge, this is the only committee at this point in the city that, at least that I know of, that doesn't have an active chair. The city clerk's office has asked us to see if we can determine who's going to be the chair. We don't necessarily have to have a vice chair, but someone who will run the meetings on, kind of take the lead on these quarterly meetings. Looks like Mike has his hand up. Go ahead, Mike.
Correction, we did have a quorum at the last meeting, 4 members in attendance out of the 7.
Okay. Then that group at the time must have decided to kick this to this next meeting. If I knew for some reason we were pushing it back. Mr. Watkins had advised us a little bit ago that oftentimes the mayoral appointed individual will serve as the chair on a lot of committees, and there's also some other committees we have that the committee themselves elect and appoint the chair. So however you all want to do it, however you all want to select the chair is fine with us. Any thoughts on that?
Who was the mayor appointed?
Mr. Epperson is the mayor appointee.
Is he here? I don't see his name.
Tanya, is he on? I don't see his name either. I thought he was on.
No, he's not. He's not on.
Okay.
Well, then he's the best person to nominate and vote in since he's not here.
But he wasn't there last time either, was he?
Tanya, was he? I don't have the minute.
He was there. Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Mike.
he was on last. He was on last time.
Okay. I mean, does he want to do it even though he's been appointed, or how do we figure that out?
I mean, I think we can probably, or you all can vote to appoint him, and if he respectfully declines, he can circle back with Tanya after she sends out the minutes and notifies him. I don't think you have to be present to be appointed as long as there's a quorum.
And has he been on this committee for a while?
It shows he expires in October of 2022. So, is this a 2-year or 4-year term? I forget.
I don't remember how long term is on the committee.
I think it's a 4-year.
It is a 4-year.
Okay. So, I mean, he's been on since 2018. So, at least since 2018, because I know it shows you're Mr. Watkins, you expire next October, but I know you've been on since 1932,
09.
something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I think Harry Truman was the county commissioner at the time.
So however y'all want to proceed, we're fine with.
Well, I make a motion that we appoint him to be a chairperson.
I'll second it.
that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passes. Wes Epperson has been appointed the chair of the SIOC, as we call it now, Street Improvement Oversight Committee. We like to acronym everything. And pending his acceptance. So Tanya will reach out to him early next week, and probably before she sends the minutes out to everybody, just to make sure he's on board with that. Excuse me. All right, let me pull this back up again. All right, the financial dashboard. Tanya sent this out to y'all last week. It's got a couple of documents on there. We wanted to send it out ahead of time so you had a chance to look over it. Simple questions without us responding back via email can be answered by Michael Winkler or myself. Was hoping to have our financial administrator on here this evening too, Laura Edgar, but she was unable to attend. So hopefully we can answer the questions, but if you have any, just go ahead and shoot. No questions. We can always circle back later if you need to at the end. All right, we'll move right along. Mike Winkler has a few project updates for you before we get to our featured presentation this evening by Mr. McKinney.
All right, thank you, Mike. Well, with the conclusion of the construction season this year, we had 12 total projects completed by the municipal services staff. 6 of those were related directly to the street improvements or the street sales tax. Those included the concrete street improvements project, sidewalks to schools, which were over near the Cordy Elementary, and then also the Three Trails Elementary on 32nd Street. Additionally, the Kendall Drive removal and Hawthorne Apartments Complex, the 2020 Asphalt Street Overlay, and the College Street improvements have recently.
Can everybody mute them? Sorry if I need to interrupt real quick. Can everybody mute themselves, because we're getting feedback and I can't hear Mike at all.
All right.
Thank you.
Just a real quick recap. 6 of the 12 projects that were completed last year were in street sales tax, the concrete street improvements, the sidewalks to schools over at Cordy Elementary, and also at Three Trails Elementary on 32nd Street, Kendall Drive removal over in the Hawthorne apartment complex, the 2020 intersection improvements, the 2020 asphalt street overlay, and the College Street improvements, this first phase. Currently, we have 3 projects under construction. None of them are street improvements. We have opened bids for 2 projects. One of them, the Mill Creek Trail Extension, which is a pedestrian bridge and trail extension between Silver Lane, portion of Mill Creek, and the McCoy Park area along Jones. That one has been bid, and we are awaiting MoDOT's concurrence to award the contract. We have the Scott Avenue Bridge, which has been a long-term closure of Scott Avenue between 24th Street and 25th Street. That was advertised this week on the 10th. Oh, actually as of today. And then we'll open on the 7th of January. We look forward to getting that one out on the streets and being able to finish that one up. And then also we had one other project. This was the first year we've done this, but it is the crack filling project as part of our movement towards preventative maintenance processes on the street system. And we are approximately done with that one. We've put down over 64,000 linear feet of crack filling to help preserve the integrity of the pavement. That should be wrapping up today and possibly 1 or 2 days next week. From the design side, we do have a couple of projects. The Valley View Parkway extension, the Grace subdivision that is going in at the intersection of Valley View Parkway and Little Blue Parkway. That one, there is an extension over East Fork of the Little Blue. That one we have extended, or we have started our conversations on the RFP review and are communicating with the #1 or first place consultant to negotiate a scope and fees and try and get that one programmed and designed. The Mill Creek Trail we talked about. We also completed the RFQ or the RFP for Truman Connected. We are negotiating with the winning team on that one to get a scope and fee. Additionally, we are negotiating with them on the Square Streetscapes to get a scope and fee relative to that effort. 24 Highway, the cost share agreement with MoDOT, we are still working with them. The cost has come in above what we were expecting, so we're going to be doing a value engineering study in January to see if we can right-size that project. And then 40 Highway is another grant project, 40 Highway Complete Streets between Sterling and Blue Ridge Cutoff on the north side of the highway. We are awaiting MoDOT's final comments on that one to get back to us to see if we can move forward with the plans, specifications, and engineering or estimate. That's the PS&E. And at that point, if they agree with the PS&E, then they will be able to move towards advertising to bid and constructing that in the spring. And Mike, those are the projects that I was going to highlight for the committee. If anybody has any particular questions about those projects or any other projects, please feel free to ask. I'll try and field any questions you have.
Any questions for Mike?
Okay, Mike, on the Truman one, what are they going to put in restrooms, you say, or stuff like that? Is that really going through like that on the square?
No, the Truman Connected, as part of the surface transportation projects and transportation alternatives projects, or what you would hear as STP or TAP, is actually focused on bringing the making multimodal connectivity between the Truman Library and ultimately out to Inglewood. So the focus on that one, as I see, would be more along the lines of what was in the PSP or the Planning Sustainable Places. That was the study from the August or July study session with council. But those funds would be towards putting a bike lane or multi-use lane or any pedestrian accommodations through that corridor.
Such as sidewalks?
Such as sidewalks, absolutely.
Because this city really needs sidewalks more than bells and whistles and frills, I can tell you that. You know, yeah. We've got streets, you know, we've got sidewalks where they actually end and you have to cross the street to pick up the sidewalk again. And some streets, some major streets don't even have sidewalks at all. So that's something that we really, really need to take a look at.
Yeah, and one of the things that with the grant, or not the grant funding, I apologize, the debt financing or the bonds that were established December of last year, part of that programming, Dan, which was a good point you brought up, we are looking at sidewalk gaps. And then we have an evaluation matrix that we've been using to try and objectively prioritize those gap projects. We have 10 sites that we are looking at trying to get out next spring as part of helping to make those connectivity points where those sidewalks are missing.
And they would also have to be ACA compliant, for wheelchairs and scooters and things like that for, people that are disabled.
Correct. Americans with Disabilities Act, of course, is the fundamental specifications that we do follow on any of the sidewalk projects that we accommodate. The same thing with any of our preventative maintenance projects where micro sealing or cape sealing or even the mill and fill overlays. If there are issues with accommodations, then we are to address those as part of that program as well.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, on the 24 highway, what's the problem? How much over are they anticipating?
Right now, the total cost for phase 1 is approximately $2 million over what we had originally anticipated. I believe that the construction was in the neighborhood of 8.4 million, and we're closer to 10 million being estimated. So we have met with MoDOT, and we are going to meet with them to bring in their team to help identify value engineering opportunities, or what you might hear as VE proposals, to see where we can find and accommodate more appropriate stewardship of the intent of the funds there. So just to bring the committee up to speed, as a reminder, on the 24 highway sidewalks was our initial proposal, and MoDOT addressed it, or reached out to us and said that MoDOT has a high crash rate on 24 highway, so the goal would be to introduce a 5th lane or a continuous left turn lane to help accommodate some of the crash activities that were occurring. So the city entered into a cost share agreement, and we've gotten through what we call the right-of-way plans, which is approximately 60% of the design work on there, and the estimate has slowly crept up. So we're trying to be proactive with MoDOT and making sure that we accommodate the goals of both organizations along 24 highway, and to get it done for the best amount of money that we can accomplish.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Thanks, Butch. Any other questions?
Mike. If there's any other questions, and you think of anything before we adjourn, there'll be a chance for some additional questions at the end, but we can go ahead and move along. Next on the agenda, the committee had asked last time we met, they had some questions about snow removal, and the group had asked if we could have a mini presentation, so to speak, from our streets superintendent, Zan McKinney, who is also over snow removal. So we've asked him to come in and just kind of give a 10,000-foot overview of snow removal in the city, a few statistics, and kind of how we're approaching it, how it's been approached in the past, and kind of how we're approaching it in the future. So he's going to kind of give a little overview here, and then leave it or open it up for questions when he's done. So hand it over to Zan.
Evening, everybody. I'm going to try and get this, see if I can get this to share again. One moment. Everybody can see the PowerPoint as we go through. I'll try and keep this to, keep to about 10 minutes, I think. So keep us on pace. So everybody see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So as Mike said, I was asked to come on and talk about our snow operations. I will tend to call them winter weather emergency operations. That's more the kind of standard nomenclature for what we do. The reason being is that obviously it's not just snow that we deal with. So we'll before we as we get started here, I think we'll pretty much start with a kind of a simple facts and stats around of the city. We have about 1,200 lane miles in the city. For clarification purposes, in case anybody to make sure that everybody knows the difference. So the reason why I clarify it out as lane miles is if you have a 1 mile of linear footage of road, but it's a 2 mile or a 2-lane road, that's actually 2 miles, 2 lane miles. If it's a 4-lane road, then it's 4 lane miles. Reason why that's a distinction that we want to make is because that's what we actually plow is the full footage of the city, not just the give or take 580 or so linear foot of lanes that we have, lane miles we have in the city. We have 792 cul-de-sacs. Reason why that's important is because cul-de-sacs are the most time-consuming part of plowing out and doing the snow plow. There's a reason why those are generally left towards the end of the events. Obviously, they're the residential areas. They serve a very few number of people in the city, and they are so time-consuming. So for an idea, if an experienced driver were to plow out a cul-de-sac to completely clear a cul-de-sac of all snow, you're talking about a 15 to 20 minute process. If they do what our policy is on the cul-de-sacs, which is basically one pass around the outside to allow a clean lane for all the people living on the cul-de-sac to have access to a clear lane of traffic. We make one pass around the outside like that drops that clearing time from about 15 to 20 minutes to about 3 to 5 minutes. So that's why we do that, in case there's any questions on that. We have 21 full body plow trucks. That would be between single axle and tandem wheel trucks. There's 21 total that we have. We have 5 brine units. Those are not individual trucks. Those are actually slide-in units that go into the back of one of our dump beds for actually putting out pre-treatment de-icing brine. This year we have about 55 employees that will be in operation, covered over between 2 shifts. To push snow or to clear the roads or handle with the winter operations. Our 10-year average in the KC metro area is just under 20 inches of snow in a given year, with about 2/3 of that snow coming in the months of January and February. So that's a basic overview of what we're looking at for the city. So question is, what are winter operations? So as I said before, most people, when you talk about winter operations, they think of snow and only snow. Even around the city, when we're talking about snow, it's generally, or talking about winter operations, it's generally considered and called pushing snow. In reality, we only have about 5 to 7 actual snow events in an average year. And only about half of those, say maybe 3 or 4 of those, in any given year are enough appreciable amount of snow to actually plow and to clear the roads. The rest are, dusting or less than an inch, things like that. So with that in mind, we still had, even though we may only have, 5 or 6 snows in a given year, we actually had 13 call outs just last year, for example. So we deal with a lot more. So the other things that we would deal with be ice, rain, sleet, or any kind of fog or dew. Basically, any kind of precipitation that would put moisture down on the roadways, because that's what's going to be that slick, those hazardous conditions when the temperatures drop. So the basic kind of when you're looking at how the conditions are managed, we have 3 primary responses to our winter events: the de-icing pre-treatment, straight snow plowing, or a plow and spread operation. The snow plowing would be done obviously during the events, while the de-icing pre-treatment is generally done 3 to 5 days prior to. So the de-icing pre-treatment, the primary goal of that, and this is one of the little bit of things that we've changed. The last few years, the way they've done the de-icing, the pre-treatment, has been kind of improper based on what you look at as a national standard. What you really want to do with de-icing pre-treatment is pre-treat residential, low traffic, low volume roads first, and slowly work your way through to your higher traffic, higher volume roads. Reason for that is the de-icing, the way it works is you throw down a sodium chloride or calcium chloride, magnesium chloride, some kind of salt water, and you let that water then evaporate out over a period of time, and it leaves the salt residue on the road. That salt creates a barrier between the pavement and any precipitation that falls, and that prevents that from bonding to the pavement. The reason why you want to start with your lower traffic, lower volume roads, like in the residential areas, is twofold. One, it takes it takes longer to get into those areas to be able to plow and treat those areas. So you're much more likely to have vehicles drive over that stuff and to pack that snow or that ice onto the roads and make that bond happen and make it much more difficult for the drivers to get that peeled up later. The other thing is that because it's a lower volume, a lower traffic, and lower speeds, that salt tends to stay on the road a lot better for a lot longer. So in a residential type area, you can generally expect that to stay on the roads for 3 to 5 days. Whereas in a high traffic, high volume area, say Nolan Road, Truman, something like that, your salt may only stay on the road for 12 to 24 hours before the vehicle traffic knocks it all off. So that's why you do the de-icing pre-treatment 3 to 5 days before, and then the snow and plowing treating would all be done during the event. The difference between the plowing and spreading would be just on, it's a supervisor call during the event based on the road temps, the way they are. If there's future snows coming in, is it raining? Is it snowing? Like all kinds of deals that go on during the event. The supervisor is actually the one responsible to make those calls during the event if we are treating or just plowing. This picture gives you a kind of idea if brining is done properly. This is what it would look like. This is an ideal snowfall for a brine pre-treatment operation. You can see from the picture, even the side that wasn't treated, it's a fairly minimal snow amount, less than 2 inches, and it's a dry snow, so you didn't have a lot of moisture, a lot of rain coming in before it. That allows the pre-treatment to really stay on the roads and melt all that snow down properly. Once you get to a little bit heavier snowfalls, or if there's any kind of rain or moisture ahead of the event, it really doesn't make sense to pre-treat and to de-ice, because all of that will get washed off the road before it really does any good. But the benefit is, if you get an event like this, that saltwater pre-treatment is about 1/3 of the cost of rock salt treatment on the roads. Before I get into the actual operations of what we are doing now, this is kind of an overview, brief overview of what we've done over the past 3 years. So as you can see, and I talked about a little bit earlier, our annual snowfall is just under 20 inches. 2 of the last 3 years, we have been under that 20 inches. We only had the 1 year in 2018-19 snow season where we had above it, and it was only slightly above. The thing you'll notice, maybe if you look at it, is that the salt used between the 6.5 inch and the 15-inch years were fairly consistent. And the reason for that is the 2017-18 season, even though we only had less than half the snow, we had a lot more ice events that year, which is why we had more labor hours and about the same amount of salt used. The brine that was used that year, that was the first year that we were trying to use the brine. And unfortunately, we put out a lot of brine, but there was so much rain, so many ice events that year, that it really didn't give us a good idea of what that brine and everything would do, because it all washed off before we really got any kind of idea on it. So, but that's a basic idea of what we've had. For what it's worth, the weather experts are all calling for this to be another mild year. We are in an El Nino weather pattern, and those generally tend to warmer, more mild winters. Obviously, it's 65 degrees today in December. So as of right now, that's holding pat and holding pretty true. But as we all know, trying to get somebody to forecast the weather 3 to 5 days in advance can be kind of tough. And these are predictions for 3 to 5 months in the future. So we'll see how that holds out and if that actually stays true. But as of right now, we have had a very mild, very warm winter. So it takes us into what we are doing currently and what our operations actually are. So as I said before, we have about 55 staff. Some of that includes our upper management and everything that's not in a direct operational deal. But in direct operation, we have 25 people per shift on the actual drivers. And so you see 19 drivers, 4 mechanics, and 2 supervisors. Those staff work on rotating 12-hour shifts. So they work a noon to midnight or midnight to noon. That has been our shift setup for the last about 6 years, and it seems to work pretty well. The reason why we do a noon to midnight, midnight to noon, some places will do like 7A to 7P. We don't like that idea because when you make that shift change, you have about an hour and a half or so that you don't have drivers actually on the roads. That means that in the morning rush hour, you would have between like 6 and 7:30, 7:45, something like that. You wouldn't have any drivers out on the roads. We would rather have drivers on the roads during our rush hour times and making sure that the roads are staying clear during those traffic times. So that's why we do our noon to midnight and midnight to noon. As I said, we have 21 full body plow, the 5 tandem axle, and 16 single axle trucks. The big difference with what we have now is 11 of those are brand new vehicles this year. And all 11 of those vehicles have a pre-wet system on there. So what that pre-wet does is it actually puts a saltwater brine onto the salt as the salt's coming off the truck. The benefit to that is it holds the salt on the road a lot better. Dry rock salt will bounce and kick off the roads, and you don't get as much to stay in the drive path where you want it. Also, because you pre-wet it, it actively starts working quicker. So it'll start melting the snow, melting the ice, things like that a lot faster. So you get a lot quicker benefit, and you see it start working a lot faster. The other benefit with the newer trucks that we have is almost all of our trucks are now outfitted with wing plows. So when their trucks are plowing out major traffic, higher traffic roads, they can actually kick the wing plow out, and it increases the plow range by about 50% on each one of those vehicles. That means that ideally you could potentially cut the drive time down for all these plow drivers to get through those major priority roads by about 50%. That doesn't really work out in the math, but it does significantly decrease the amount of time that we have to go over your main priority roads, higher traffic, higher volume, wider roads. So I talked about the 5 slide brining units before. The big benefit to that is not only did we buy the new slide-in brine units, we also bought a new commercial brine creation unit. That new commercial brine creation unit allows us to create brine about 5 times as fast as we had been able to in the past. We've also increased our storage capacity to hold brine. We used to have about 25,000 gallons that we could hold. We've increased that to about 70,000 gallons. Those tanks are going to actually be delivered next Tuesday to increase our brine making capacity. That'll help with the slide-in brine units and also allow us to do that pre-wet on the trucks. And then the last big thing to hit would be our AVL tracking. That's automatic vehicle location system. That was actually something we've been trying to implement for about 10 years. Last year was the first year we really got it up and off the ground and got a system that worked fairly well. There were some hiccups and some issues that we had with it, but the citizens and the public saw probably a big benefit because it was the first time we were able to actively publish out a map to the residents to let them log into a website to see what our drivers were doing, where they were at, and what we had done, kind of a quick glance at where we're at in the city. That also allows all of the supervisors that are on staff and that are running the event, it gives them better opportunity to control the event and to really have a better grasp of what's going on in the city at the time, as opposed to just trying to drive around and see what they can do. They can look from the computer and see if our drivers are plowing, if they're treating, how many of the roads were done, what was done the last 6, 8, 12 hours, things like that. So really the big things that have changed over the last couple of years have really just been the brine, the pre-wet, our de-icing program, and this new AVL tracking system. Everything else is fairly standard from what we've been doing for the last several years. So that is our basic snow presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything.
Who decides what neighborhood putting brine?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Who's deciding what neighborhood you're putting brine down?
Well, in the past, as I said, there wasn't a lot of brine focused in on the residential in the neighborhoods. There are 4 locations that were done on a fairly regular basis, and those were locations that were either areas with extremely bad hills or a number of cul-de-sacs and things like that. So those areas that were the last areas to get plowed out. We're talking about stuff like the Cliffs, Brittany Ridge, Country Meadows, Tennessee Hills up in the northwest corner of the city. Those are the only neighborhoods that were regularly hit with any kind of pre-treatment. Moving forward, what our goal would be is to have a priority list of neighborhoods like that. We've got a general list put together for that, and we've done that in-house. But the goal would be, if we're able to start 3 to 5 days in advance doing the pre-treatment, the de-icing, then we would be able to hit the majority, say 70 to 80% of the neighborhoods in the city, depending on, again, how much time we have prior to the event, how much notice we have before the event.
Okay. Now, what about if we have a major ice storm? What's our protocol there?
It really kind of depends on how the ice comes in. So if it comes in and starts as rain, like a number of the events that we've had in the last few years that have been major ice events have started out as rain events and through the daytime. And then as night came and rain continued to fall, the already wet ground mixed with now freezing rain coming down, and you get flash freezing. The problem with those kind of events is you really can't pre-treat for that, because any material you throw on the roads just gets washed away. So you're just kind of throwing out salt for no reason. Your only hope is that you have a good idea of when the snow or when that rain is going to turn over into the freezing rain and start freezing up. And start pre-treating out maybe an hour to 2 hours before that changeover happens, to see if you can get the best options you can. If it starts out as freezing rain, then we have a much better ability to control that, because we can throw down salt and everything as soon as it starts the precipitation. Once an ice event happens, and we know that there's ice on the ground, and everything, we're stuck in a similar situation as to all the drivers. We want to make sure that we're driving in a safe manner, our trucks are driving in a safe manner. So those are the type of events, that's the worst type of event that we have to deal with in our winter operations.
Well, my question also probably would be is that I know it's been several years since we've had a major ice storm, but are we prepared if something like this happens with the tree removals, it sits on lanes and stuff like that? Are we up to date with something like that or not?
I guess in a good and bad, we have had over the last, say, 8 or 10 years, we have had 3 major events where we've had massive numbers of trees down the road. There was a major ice event in 2013. There was a major wind event in 2015. And then there was a secondary wind event and storm event in 2018. The one in 2015, I know offhand that there was about 800 locations across the city where we had trees that were down. something like that. That took us about 3 to 4 weeks to clear everything completely out. But we had all the roads back open within 3 days. So we have staff, we have trucks, and we have the ability to do a lot of that stuff. A lot of it just really comes down to when the storm events, end, and when we're able to get staffing out there to start working on clearing that. We are, to some extent, though, limited on the number of staff that we have.
Okay.
But we do have a plan in place, yes. So, like I said, because we have had to do that several times over the last few years.
Okay, good.
Any other questions for Zan?
Nope.
Great. Thank you, Zan. Appreciate it. Is it supposed to snow tomorrow night?
Yes and no. So it's going to be another one of the same type of events that we've had the last 2 or 3, where it's freezing rain and stuff like that. But especially with the last couple of days of having plus 60-degree temps, ground temps right now are hovering around mid-50s. In addition to that, the air temps over Friday, Saturday, Sunday aren't supposed to drop below freezing. It's supposed to hover around 34, 35 for the lows. So we are going to get some precipitation in, but nothing that is going to amount to anything that should catch up on the roads. Maybe some slight freezing on initial snowfalls, but it'll melt very quickly after, and nothing that we should really be out there treating or anything at this point in time.
Great. Thanks. I asked the question because I knew your answer was going to be thorough. I know I wanted the committee to hear that I know you're monitoring this all the time. You're living and breathing this stuff. So,
yep.
So we're on it. Zan is on it. Does the committee
Zan, one other question?
Yes.
The new trucks, I guess the guys are trained with those wings. I've seen them now. I've been seeing some of them because I drive by the place, those new wings. So they've been trained pretty good with those. I mean, are we going to have to worry about some liability of hitting cars?
So, unfortunately, there's always some chance of that. But we have been doing a lot of training with all of our new drivers. One of the downsides with the situation that we as a public works department across the KC metro area, everyone sees the same stuff. We always have a high turnover rate for our staff. So some of our most experienced drivers have been driving for maybe 2 or 3 years now. That being said, we do a lot of training. We've actually done 4 or 5 days worth of training with all of these guys, which is much more than we've done in past. The wing plows will only be used on your major higher traffic roads. Once we get into residential areas, those drivers will actually be removing the wing plows from the trucks. So they'll be back down to a standard, plow width and plow truck at that point to try and limit that exposure that we have in those kind of situations.
So you take the wing plows off then?
Yeah, they take about 5 to 10 minutes to take them off the trucks. It's much longer to get them back on, but they only take about 5 or 10 minutes to drop them. So we're able to do that during an event, yes.
Okay, I thought they stayed on the whole time. So okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Zan.
Yes, sir.
I may have some questions coming up. Not right now. I'm still waiting on some information. But is there a way I can contact you when this information does pop up so I can present these questions to you? Like an email address or something like that?
Yes. So any of you who want to take my email address, it's just Z McKinney, and that's McKinney, and that's going to be at indepmo.org. I see Mike is typing me. He may be putting that in the chat. I'm not sure.
Okay, I got it.
So
yeah,
yeah.
just so there's record of it.
Thank you.
So yep.
Great,
Thank
thanks,
you very
Zan.
much, sir.
No, thank you.
So that brings us to the end with some additional questions. If anyone has any questions at all related to snow operations or projects or Anything that's on top of your head? Something that's burning desire to know?
New projects, when will we get some kind of report on those that are coming out, or do we have any?
I'm sorry, Butch. Would you repeat that again?
Oh, any type of new projects coming up in the future that we'll be getting reports on? How will we get to know notifications of those?
The only thing that's coming up, of course, we've got the quarterly updates. Gave the updates on Valley View and the projects that are coming online. If you want to, you can always reach out. I know that the city is currently working on the CIP, the Capital Improvements Plan for the next 5 years. That's going to be coming online. If there's anything in particular, Butch, that you're interested in, we can facilitate getting that out to the team.
I'm just curious, so I can see what's coming up, so I can look at it, and drive by it, or whatever. So I can see my opinion in case people ask me or anything.
Okay, for construction projects, we could email the team or the committee when those projects are going online. That's probably going to be the most visible time that you'll see that with the cycling of the projects themselves. So we can send out an email to the committee whenever we're getting ready to advertise a project.
That would probably help, because that might, in case people ask me what's coming down, what's happening over here, so I have a little bit more information so I can tell them.
We can do that.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? I believe Tanya sent out the tentative schedule for the next, I believe, 6 months last week. Of course, I don't have it in front of me here. Tanya, do you have that in front of you? You can.
Yes. Yeah. March the 4th, June the 3rd, September the 2nd, and December the 2nd.
So the next 12 months. Okay. So the March the 3rd is the next meeting?
March the 4th.
The 4th. Okay.
Turn right onto East.
Okay. If there's anything pressing prior to that the group would like to come back together and discuss, I mean, obviously feel free to reach out to us and we can put something together. As I said earlier, Tanya will reach out to Mr. Epperson to confirm his acceptance or denial of the chair position, and she'll include that in the minutes when she sends it out to everybody later next week. So with that, are there any other questions or anything else for the good of the order?
I don't have any.
All right.
None.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Can you hear the ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
We are